Hi everyone, it's David O'Neill again, and I'm here with Monk from Uberrock, who's going to have a discussion about the music scene in Northern Ireland. So take it away, Monk.
Hi, David. As you know, Uberrock's based here in the beautiful city of Belfast in Northern Ireland, and we've been from the very beginning, just like we were in South Wales, and continue to be so. Massive big supporters of the local underground and grassroots music scenes, the local independent bands, the independent venues. And I think we're very lucky in Belfast, and compared to some other regions of the UK, we actually have a very vibrant grassroots venue movement as such. We've most of our venues, apart from the obvious interference of the academy group, if you will, and one big arena. 95% of our venues here are all independently owned, either individual operators or small local companies, and the venues themselves are very, very supportive of up and coming local bands. Um, Perhaps the most obvious example that people will have heard of is our favourite venue, which is Voodoo on the back streets of Belfast. It's been going for about 15 years now. Very, very dedicated team, love their music, live for the music. Music has built that venue, particularly the alternative punk and metal scenes, of which they've been very supportive. They've just themselves started their own Voodoo Sessions initiative, which is aimed at unsigned bands, where they basically once a month give them a free showcase in the venue, pay them to play, which is very important, obviously, for any band, and give them that exposure, loads of publicity. They record the stuff, put it out on YouTube afterwards, stream it, everything. They're also very supportive of the Bloodstock Metal to the Masses competition, which is obviously aimed at grassroots metal bands to get them a slot at the Bloodstock Festival. I'm very proud to say that Uberrock's been involved in that competition for about 10 years. I'm one of the judges. Proud to be a judge. Very difficult task. Lots of quality bands. But again, they're all unsigned. They're all underground. And interesting statistic for you, David. Don't know if you're aware of this, but
No.
Northern Ireland has more rock bands per head of population than any other country in the world, with the exception of Finland.
Very interesting.
And of course, those bands wouldn't survive without the grassroots venues that support them, that put them on, the grassroots promoters. We have some excellent promoters here, most notably James Loveday from the Distortion Project, who's been going for longer than he probably cares to remember. That man deserves a knighthood for his support of the local rock and metal scene. Obviously, he brings in the big name bands. This past weekend, he had Centrix in doing their 25th anniversary tour. Um, but again, he's a massive supporter of the unsigned bands, the underground bands. He has his own record company with bands like Sky Pilot and Wild Heat signed to them. And he's been very instrumental in the building of the profile of the careers of a lot of the rock and metal bands that our Uber Rock readers will now be familiar with. But outside of that, again, we've because we're a small compact city, all our venues are fairly close together. We have the historic Empire Music Hall, which puts on lots of bands. One of the newest kids on the block is a venue called the Deer's Head, which is Belfast only microbrewery. It's run by another massive music buff, and they have bands Saturday afternoon blues sessions. They have grindcore bands playing a little bit of everything, and they work with the promoters. They work with the bands to make sure the shows are affordable for everybody to put on, and equally importantly, affordable for the punters to attend, because if the punters don't attend and can't afford to attend, the bands can't afford to play, the venues don't stay open.
It's simple, really. I
Mm.
mean, what do you think of the Music Venue Trust's idea to try to get arena tours with a levy to support grassroots music venues?
I'm a bit skeptical about it. It's sort of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. I can see the objection of the arena owners, um, but then again, they should be playing their part, because without the grassroots music venues, they wouldn't have the Snow Patrols, for example, of this world. Snow Patrol have just announced a massive tour for next year. They had their first venue playing to 20 people upstairs in a pub in an alleyway in Belfast. So and now they're headlining 4 or 5 nights at the 10,000-seater arena, a quarter of a mile down the road.
I
Um,
mean, it's a bit like Oasis, you know.
yeah,
I mean, only 11 of the existing 34 venues that they first played are still open.
yeah. One of the venues that they, more some historic venues that they played, is a venue here in Belfast, actually, the Limelight, which has been here for 30 odd years. And they were actually playing on stage to 100 people there. The night definitely maybe was announced as being number one in the charts. So again, if it wasn't for the grassroots venues, where would the Gallagher brothers be?
Well, exactly, you know. And I think they've announced somewhere in a region of about 1.2 million ticket sales.
Yeah, it's frightening when you think about it. Much money are they going to make off that tour?
3 or 4 quid.
Sure, didn't Taylor Swift say she only makes about £4.50 out of every show?
Yeah, right.
Aye, right, jumping the other one, missus.
So, have you got anything coming up in the next couple of weeks around your area that you're going to see?
Yeah, the big one probably for us and for obviously with the Uberrock Massive is the return of Trucker Diablo, who of course were up the Steelhouse Mountain over the summer. And their
Okay.
new album is coming out in just under 2 weeks' time, A Social Hand Grenade. It's their sixth album. We've been very lucky to have had a copy of it for a couple of weeks. That's what happens when you know the boys, you say, and you promoted them in the past. You get in the back pocket. Um, Typical what we would expect from Trucker: hard party rock, big ballads, big riffs, huge stuff. Um, they have I say the album's coming out on Friday the 25th. They're self-releasing. They've always been very much a DIY in that regard.
Hmm.
And I mean, most of the packages that they've put on sale, the t-shirts and the hoodies, and all sold out months ago. They went up, within minutes of them going on sale, all the hoodies had sold out. So it shows how popular they are and how successful you can be by doing it yourself at grassroots level.
Well, they better bring a couple across the water when they come to my area.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that you were saying about the music venue trust. They recently, or just yesterday, brought out that report about bands touring, and
Mm.
obviously touring is hugely expensive, and it's got more so in recent years post COVID. And
Yeah.
but Trucker are doing a full UK tour, for want of a better phrase, because they're doing their album launch show here on their home turf in a wee place called a Hochel in County Antrim. If anybody wants to know where a Hochel is, go up the motorway, come to the sign that says the back end of nowhere, and hang left. But it's got a brilliant wee venue up there called the Diamond Rock Club, who've been very supportive of lots of Northern Ireland bands over the years and continue to be so. So Trucker are doing their album launch there on the 26th of September. It's Saturday night, and then 2 weeks later they're heading across the Shuck, as we call it, that wee stretch of water called the Irish Sea, and they're doing one show in Edinburgh, one show in Blackpool, and one show in South Wales at the Crumlin Patriots. So
Which is
yeah,
about 5 minutes away from me.
yeah. So hopefully, they'll not only bring a few hoodies and T-shirts, but they'll bring a few copies of the CD, and they'll maybe even bring some vinyl with them. You never know.
Mm. Like I said, you were saying about the number of venues, the number of gigs that bands are doing on a tour. You know, that report yesterday said it's halved since 1990.
Hmm.
And I can understand why, because of the costs of accommodation, transport, and the logistics of shifting the gear. So to a certain extent, I can understand why.
Hmm.
But if bands are touring, they really need to try and find localities to play in.
Yeah,
And if they don't know the area, that becomes difficult.
yeah. I think it's all about teaming up with other bands.
Hmm.
When we face a particular problem here in Belfast, I mentioned there that wee bit of water called the Irish Sea. It's officially the most expensive piece of water in the world. It costs more per mile to cross the Irish Sea than it does across the Atlantic. And you imagine a band on tour, want to do a proper UK tour, want to play everywhere possible, come to Ireland. they've got to do two, three, maybe 4 dates over here while they're over to make it worth their while.
Mm.
They can't just come and play one night in Belfast, because you're talking the cuts of $1,000 from just to get them and their gear across. But
Yeah.
what we've found is a good business model, and it's been working both ways. And Trucker are really good at it. They're an example of one band. As they team up with bands in other locales, and say a band are coming to Belfast, it'll be a co-headline show.
Mm.
Share the gear, reduce the cost by not having to bring your entire backline and your drum kit with you, and sometimes that's the only way it succeeds over here. It's the only way even some of the big name bands can do it, is to just some of the artists we had who was over recently, Enough's Enough, and they were using all the support bands gear. They just basically brought themselves and their guitars, and that it was the only way the gig was financially viable. But when you're the likes of, say, Evil Scarecrow, who are coming over next month, they put on a very theatrical stage show. They got to bring all that. They got to bring their pyro. They got to bring all their stage props and all with them. It's a hugely expensive undertaking.
Mm.
So we have that added problem. It's not just the petrol. It's the the getting shipping the gear over. But it is touring. I used to do tour manager years ago, and it's a massive logistical undertaking. It's also working out your routes as well and the availability of the venues. I mean, you look at some of the tour schedules. Okay, they're saying they're only doing 10, 11 dates. They're crisscrossing the UK. They may be playing Swansea one night, Glasgow the next, then down to Southampton, then back up to Newcastle upon Tyne, then down to Norwich. But it's because that's the only nights the venues are available.
Yeah. It becomes, as you say, logistically impossible.
Mm-hmm. And I think that,
and if you play too many concerts too close together, you'll just split the audience.
yeah, and as well. I mean, I was going to say it's the whole thing as well. In the old days, especially here, I mean, I'm as guilty of it as anybody. People often decided, particularly if it's an unsigned band, decided to leave it to the last minute as to whether or not they were going. Oh, so and so is playing down the road on Friday night. Oh, we'll think about going. We'll decide at 5 o'clock on Friday night when we finish our working week how knackered we feel. But you can't do that anymore. Bands have to rely on advance ticket sales to make it look, to take that punt. Are we going to go ahead with that? And I think there's been a couple of examples recently of tours cancelled due to tour ticket sales. Toby Jepson's tour being one.
It's not just the ticket sales; it's the support acts as well.
Mm-hmm.
The people will go along for the headline band, or the friends will go along for the support act and then disappear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's getting that good package together as well. I mean, and do you want two bands that sound identical to each other? Do you want two blues rock bands, or do you want a blues rock band and a heavy metal band? And is that contrast going to be too much for the fans, or is this the fact that they're too similar to each other too much for the fans? It's a lot of balls in the air for bands and promoters and managers. And I don't envy anybody putting together tour schedules these days, to be honest.
No, it's like I said, I was at the Scarlet Rebels gig last Monday, and they zigzagged across the country in 10 days. They did 10 gigs in 10 days, and they went from, Cambridge up to Glasgow, down to Manchester, across to Chester, all over the country.
Yeah, it's not an easy task being putting that sort of stuff together, and all we can do is, as I say, like Uberrock, is continue to support bands like them, and encourage people to go along and see them in their local venue, rather than travel 500 miles to stand 500 miles away to watch a pair of brothers possibly beat the head off of each other instead of playing their guitars. I mean, the big rumour wasn't it, that Oasis had split up while everybody was waiting in the queue for tickets?
Yeah. So I was going to ask something then, but my brain's gone. The singles, the daily singles that you managed to get on the website.
Yeah.
Where'd you get those from? Is just the bands approaching you?
It's a combination of everything. It's the like most of the old-fashioned thing of press releases coming in from PR companies and record companies. Anything that says single in it gets dumped into a particular folder on the Uberrock inbox and gets looked at every day. Um, we look at, you know, a lot of different criteria around it. We do try to avoid the big name bands. We can't always do so. I mean, just last week we had Body Count's new single. Put it up there. It appealed to me in a warped sense of way. You know, Body Count doing Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd
I
with
saw that.
with David Gilmour on lead guitar. You know, hey, you know, yeah, let's make it single of the day. Let's get it out there. Let's people make up their mind about this new version of a classic song done by a hardcore rap band. Um, so yeah, and we get a lot of bands approaching us. Maybe somebody that we've featured on the site before. I'll go, hey, you reviewed our last single. Here's our new one. We're getting a lot of people who send us stuff up to a fortnight in advance, so we can now even just plan ahead and say, yeah, okay, that's coming out next Friday. That's a serious contender, so it'll get a wee star put beside it. I'll revisit it. Um, Sometimes some of it is just stuff I accidentally come across on Facebook or even YouTube when I'm like researching other
Mm.
features. I'll see a band pop up and they say, "Oh, they got a new single coming out," or it'll automatically, mysteriously appear on my playlist, and I'll listen to it and go, "Hey, I like that. I like that," and that's worthy of a wee band. Sometimes it's thematic. You'll notice coming up to a certain date at the end of this
Mm.
month, things will get a little bit spooky with the singles club. I think our,
Well,
our 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 video of the week this week has think set the tone. The new Ice Nine Kills 14-minute long horror fest. Um,
I'm
just
glad you like it because I wouldn't be listening to it. That's the
it's picked because of the video content, not just the music.
that's that's the nature of the beast, though, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
the team approach.
well, that's the thing as well with the main singles club that runs once a fortnight. I try to keep that as eclectic as possible and cover as many different genres
Mm.
as we can, and hopefully open people's ears to some new styles of music that they particularly didn't listen to. Um, so we try to keep there. Now, I think if we made it all new wave of classic rock, it'd get very boring very quickly. But if you mix that up with a wee bit of like melodic deathcore and a wee bit of prog rock and a wee bit of maybe folk metal, juggle all those balls in the air and come up with a playlist of 21 songs that make people want to sit and troll their way through it for 2.5 hours of their time. And but
Well, you all you got to do is put it on Spotify and play it through there, or find a way of putting it out there.
yeah, and we're very lucky. We've got some PR companies that know exactly what we like on the site and know what our demographic is. I mean, the site when it first started out was very into its glam rock and pop punk and all that sort of stuff. And we still stay very true to that ethos. And we have a couple of PR companies, particularly actually, funny enough, one in Los Angeles. Big shout out to Mike Cabillos at Earshot Media, who has been a massive supporter of Uberrock and works an awful lot with underground bands and up and coming young bands as well as the veteran garage rock scene. And he actually works very closely with Steve Van Sant from Sirius FM and Wicked Cool Records. So we got a lot of good stuff from Mike. Mike always goes to the top of the playlist. I'll have a wee listen to anything new that he sends out because it's usually pretty spot on.
I notice there seems to be a lot of music coming out of Canada at the moment.
There is,
All sorts of styles.
yeah, all sorts of stuff, good stuff coming out of there. Um, yeah, we've had a couple of good folk metal bands featured on the site recently, and there's a lot of that bands like the Commoners and stuff coming through the sort of more traditional blues rock style. They must be putting something in that beer.
Well, it's the cold weather. I suppose they got to jig about a bit.
Yeah, I suppose you got to keep your fingers warm. Why not burn up a fretboard?
Okie dokie.
we
Well,
mentioned
thanks
we
for your
mentioned
time. Go
sorry,
on.
Dave. We mentioned glam rock there.
Yeah.
I just want to flag up and a big announcement that was made this morning here in Belfast. We are getting our first ever 3-day indoor AOR festival next year at the end of May and the Mandela Hall. And give me second. I'm just trying to find the. It's being headlined on one night by Michael Monroe, making I think it's his first ever appearance in Belfast.
He must have got enough money to come over the water.
We've got that, and we've got FM headlining the third and final night. Regular visitor, we were here earlier this year. I've been over a few times over the years. Always go down very, very well, particularly with the new wave of classic rock crowd.
Mm.
And the big announcement, though, from the local band point of view, is the appearance by Storm Zone. A lot of people thought the band had fallen by the wayside recently, but they're back in action. They're recording a new album with a new lineup. But this set is going to be based around their debut album, Caught in the Act, which was released 20 years ago next year. So they're going to play that album in its entirety as part of that. One of the other bands on the bill is another favourite of ours here at URHQ, and that's Wild Heat. Good wee band, sort of do that LA strip style stuff, and the promoter has promised lots more to come. Well, he's going to need a lot more to come to fill 3 days. So yes.
Well, yeah, if it's 3 bands, they're not going to fill 3 days.
Yeah. The only downside of it, and I'm sure Kieran will take this one on the chin, is that the opening night is tribute bands. And we don't do tribute bands here at Uberrock HQ, as you well know, David.
Yeah, well, if there's tribute bands out there, if the originals just take their instruments across and give up an hour of their time, that would encourage the grassroots music venue scene.
Aye, it would do. Well, it's about the only chance we're going to get to hear Journey in Belfast next year. What's going on with them?
Yeah, anybody, to be honest with you.
Mm.
Okie doke. Well, thanks for your time.
No problem, David.
And we'll do this again in about 4 or 5 weeks.
Aye, indeed, because there's an awful lot of gigs coming up here, and we're always busy. I don't get as many as I would like. That's something to do with working nights. But I get as many as I can. And we'll continue to support the local music scene. If we can't get to the gig, we're obviously going to profile it. Anybody who's interested, Uberrock actually curates an online listing service on Facebook for all Northern Ireland rock, metal, and punk shows, blues as well. It's updated on a weekly basis, and it's on the Facebook group NI Rock and Metal Bands. It's curated by myself, so it gives details of what bands are playing, and mostly grassroots, but obviously everybody. So if it's somebody playing the SSE Arena, it's on there. If it's somebody playing Voodoo, it's definitely on there.
So talking about finding gigs and venues, I mean, I mentioned in the first episode about Hereby, which is curated by the Music Venue Trust, and it lists all grassroots music venues across the UK and North America, as well as the big venues. And it doesn't just list music, it lists all genres of music and theatre and all sorts of things. A really, really useful site, particularly if somebody's going somewhere on holiday and they want something to do, they can find it through there.
Yeah, it sounds so useful. I haven't checked it out myself. I haven't seen what their presence is like in Northern Ireland.
I had a look earlier on, and it's got a fair number of venues that I spotted on there.
Well, say we've got a good range of them here, and thankfully, outside of the Academy group, we most of our venues are small and independent, and very, very proactive as well in terms of their promotion. A lot of them have very good social media outlets. So if you're coming to Belfast and you're looking for music at the weekend, it's not really that hard to find. And that's not just the fiddly-dee stuff.
Okay, thanks for your time, Mark. You take care. We'll speak again soon.
David, been a pleasure as always. Talk to you soon.
Bye then.
Bye.